The growing season for 2018, I think, was setting up as kind of a normal growing season. We started off, I would say, quite normal for moisture, or average for moisture. But when you look back on 2017, it was quite different. Yields in 2017 were well above average. We had very timely rainfall through the season, but not a lot, I would say, I'd say slightly below average. Then when I start to compare numbers for 2018, we actually had more rain in 2018, but they were less significant weather events, like small rainfall events through the season that really didn't accumulate. The only event in 2018 was we had a large 33 millimeter or inch and a quarter rainfall, or almost inch and a half rainfall, the last week of June. And that basically, to me, saved our canola crop. That was almost too late for our wheat crop. Soybeans still had a lot of time to get through, so I wasn't too worried about soybeans yet. And our corn crop was really starting to show moisture stress already at that point. One interesting thing we had this year was we installed moisture probes in the field this year in our 4 crops, in our wheat, canola, soybeans, and corn. So the moisture probes in the field measure at 5 different depths. So they monitor soil moisture at basically 0, so your soil surface almost, and then at 10, 20, 30, 50, and 100 centimeters. So those are the depths that it's monitoring, and it's basically giving you a report of what your available water is in the soil. So we're beginning to look at more of a longer term approach. So we always talk about rainfall and what rain we get, but we're starting to look at more of what moisture or what water's in the soil profile too, because we're not able to manage or adjust that. We're not under irrigation here, so we're living off of rainfall plus what's in the soil. So it's interesting with these soil probes that going into 2018, we had approximately 8 inches of available water, which is a very good amount, and that's what showed our predicted yield to be lining up with what I was estimating. But as the season progressed and the crop was growing and taking water out of the ground, it was showing that we were running a moisture deficit. And now at the end of the crop year, we are running about 6 inches of available water. So we're already going into 2019 with less water than 2018. We've had some water or some rain events in September and October, but really not enough to replenish that amount. So already the concern is, what's 2019 going to bring? We're short of water now, but we've kind of learned in this environment or this area we're in, usually water isn't a limiting factor for us. Usually too much water is an issue in our soils, on our heavy clays, but the concern now is what's our outlook for 2019. And when we started the year, our estimated yield and our yield goals were all lining up with our available water, but as the year progressed, and as I mentioned, we were didn't get the rainfall that we were hoping for, our predicted yields were beginning to drop quite quick through the season. So our wheat yields were starting to decline. Being dry in late May and June, our wheat crop began to lose tillers and just started to look thin. And my hopes or plans for an 80 bushel wheat crop was kind of reduced by middle of June. Canola, though, is one of those crops that can handle or adjust to different conditions, and it was looking very poor the middle of June, but as I mentioned, that rain the end of June really turned that crop around, and seeing it was dry, the crop was able to root down deep and take advantage of any moisture that was there. And by the end of the year, our canola crop, which I was hoping to maybe be an average 40 bushel crop, turned out to be over 50 bushel canola crop. So I was really happy with our canola crop. Our wheat crop was a little disappointing. Yields were in that mid 40 to maybe 60 bushel range, which based on the conditions in the year probably wasn't too bad, but the last 2 or 3 years we've been pushing our yields to in that high 70, 80 and 90 bushel range. So you start to get spoiled with these high yields. So when you only get a 40 to 60 bushel wheat crop, you feel like you've had a crop failure. When you look at a soybean crop, it has a long season to grow, and even though it was a little bit drier early on, its most important rainfall, or when it needs the most water, is early August, or that R2, R3 stage, and we just didn't get that significant rainfall at that time. And you could see that with the heat and the dry conditions, that the beans matured quicker than normal. And like we saw in 2017, without that rainfall in June, our estimated yield was probably around that 30 bushel range, which really lined up. That's kind of where we averaged out, was about 30 bushels for our soybeans. Whereas if we had that significant rainfall in August, like I had mentioned, then we can push yields to mid-50s into the 60 range. So beans really respond to that rainfall at that time. Our corn crop, however, it's obviously a very huge plant, grows for a lot longer season than what wheat, canola, and soybeans do, and it just ran out of water basically. And our soil probes were showing that through the year, that predicted yield was dropping very fast through the year. The graph was showing a reduction in yield, and my original yield goal of 175 bushels, by the end of the year, I was less 100 bushels on my average. So I was averaged out to, the mid 70 range, low 70 range in some of my corn. So it just showed how much water that crop needs to grow through the season. So yeah, 2018, when you look back at the weather and how it went, was very, very difficult. Hot, a lot of hot days, and just not enough rain to carry that crop through.